2 rounds remain in the Blancpain GT World Challenge America Championship for the world's elite in GT3 machinery. First of a doubleheader event here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Welcome to the Blancpain GT World Challenge America, presented by Cirque du Soleil. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine, down in the pits for us. An absolutely beautiful setting here, north and east of downtown Las Vegas. You can see the Strip at night here, certainly, but in the day, it is absolutely beautiful out in the desert, and we've got a bit of a duel that's about to unfold here, Cal.
We do. It's a big day. First doubleheader weekend ever in terms of both races on the same day for these GT3 competitors, so it's a big day. Championship was settled in terms of the drivers at the last round of the championship, so for Tony Vilander, aboard that number 61 R Ferrari, he is the double champion now, but lots of other titles up for grab, particularly in the manufacturer's stakes. Ferrari has a 17-point lead over Bentley, but Ferraris don't have the pace here of the Bentleys this weekend. It's been a pole position shutout for the Bentleys, with Andy Soucek taking the pole for this race and his teammate Alvaro Parent aboard the number 9 as well, taking the pole for tomorrow. So Tony Vilander, Miguel Molina, who's reteamed with this weekend, have a lot of work to do.
They do indeed. Yeah, great speed from that number 9 Capex Bentley. And the team points, important as well. Our Ferry leads by 14 over Capex. And in the Pro-Am category, in the Pro-Am points table for the teams, it's only 2 points different between Racer's Edge and Real Time. So some very, very close racing in some of the other categories. As I mentioned, Ryan Marine, third member of our broadcast team. Let's check in with him down in pit lane.
Hey, good morning, guys. And you talked about some of the other championships. The Drivers' Championships get a lot of the headlines, but for these teams, it means a great deal. The manufacturers as well. For Capex, those couple of Bentleys, Drivers' Championship out of reach coming into this final weekend, but they still have the team and manufacturer honors to go after. Similar story in the Pro-Am with the Racer's Edge team. They really want that team's championship, with the Drivers' Championship more in hand at this stage. So a lot still at stake as we go into the final 2 rounds of the season, all today here at Las Vegas.
Yeah, lots on the line for sure here. Let's take a look at how close some of that is, and that team's championship points battle in particular is really, really close that we've talked about in that Pro-Am category. And it's really important. I mean, that's the acknowledgement that these crews get for putting together these cars, and it is a close one. And you think about this, just the metronomic success that Racer's Edge has had in their first season in this level of racing has been just superb.
It really has. To make the jump to GT3 competition for John Meraki and the whole group there at Racer's Edge has been phenomenal. They've come under a lot of pressure during the summer months with Real Time with Dane Cameron and Mike Hedlund when he got teamed up with him. They've been on a tear. They won the last 4 races in a row in class, took an overall win at Road America, and has put Dane Cameron within 4 points of Barkey and Marcelli. But there's a rule in place: if a pro driver is split with his AM partner at the end of the season, he basically disappears in the points. So it's really locked in the championship if they have a solid day today for Marcelli and Barkey.
And here's a look at the starting lineup. It'll be on the bottom of your screen there. And a great qualifying lap by Pat Long to put that car up into the 2nd spot, as we'll show you the rest of the field. Now, interesting here, the pace lap here is literally a lap and a half, because the start-finish line, you're in a braking zone and you're turning into the chicane, so it's really, really tight here. So what they do is they have them start on the infield in between turns 7 and 8, where it's a little bit better of a run to get things established in here, Cal.
Yeah, and I think for all of these teams, we just saw a touring car race evolve in terms of where the passing zones may be for these GT3 competitors. They're unsure where they can make some moves here today, so it's going to be exciting to see them experiment and kind of look into some of these brake zones, see if they can make a move.
And in that number 58 Porsche Consulting Wright Motorsports Porsche, Scott Hargrove, the young man who put in that great qualifying run to launch him up to the outside of the front row. Then the number 3 Bentley in the hands of Rodrigo Baptista. Then Vilander, the champion-elect in that Ferrari. Then the fastest of the Pro-Am cars until Bechtelsheimer has been showing some speed here this week. And here we go. Field coming out of turn 7. They're allowed to roll into the throttle even before the green flies. It does now. Here it is. Will Andy Soucek be able to hang on, or will Hargrove go around the outside? Hargrove going to ramp the outside.
He's in deep. He's wide,
way
though.
Too wide.
Outside of the track limits. He's probably going to have to give that position up. A great start for Tony Vilander.
Wow.
Up into the 2nd position early aboard the R Ferrari.
Yeah, he just timed that to perfection, and you're right. I'm sure Race Control will be checking in with that Porsche team and saying, nope, you better slot back in behind here.
Not the start that Andy Soucek was looking for from the pole. Hargrove, what can he do? The problem is now to give that position back to Soucek. He's got to let Vilander by, so a tough decision to be made here.
Yeah, and for Souček, as soon as Hargrove turned across, he had to check up. That just completely blunted his momentum. And look at this battle between the two teams. Oh, and a big run as well from the number 64 of Brett Curtis coming up.
Mike Hedlund there aboard the re-liveried, they call it the Vegas Bling, baby. You can see the chrome livery aboard the 43 real-time Acura. Just gave up the brake zone a little bit, and Curtis took advantage in the red Ferrari.
Yeah, Mike had qualified the car third, and he's dropped back just a little bit. Yeah, I love what their slogan is, blinging, for the weekend here. But interesting to hear what's going to unfold here. Vilander, red Ferrari.
Pushing the boundaries there a little bit. They said they got to keep the tires on the paint through this infield section, and Tony certainly explored territory outside of that on the exit of turn 3. Souček has got to be patient from the pole. They really felt that the pole position was really going to lock down a great start to this race, but Hargrove was super aggressive there in making that outside move into that first corner, turn 8.
Another guy who had a great opening lap, Anthony Imperato, with the team car to the 58, the number 91 Porsche, jumped from 6th to 4th overall and into the lead in the Pro-Am category, and relegated Bechtelsheimer in the Gradient Unit Nutrition Acura back into 6th overall, second in class.
Scott Hargrove certainly made his intentions. He was up on the wheel early, was not going to give it up to Souček on the inside of that first corner, ran a little bit wide, and now it's kind of settling in. For Hargrove, he's had a victory this year with Pat Long, but has not had the best of seasons overall, been running in some other competition. Porsche young professional driver. He wants to finish off the season on a high.
We have seen him this year. He has put in some aggressive and sparklingly successful opening laps. And this is another one here, although he did float way, way wide, so we'll have to see what the word is there as we're taking
Watch
a look.
Souček here.
Yeah.
Looking for the outside line now. He's going to start to tighten up, try and get the run on Tony Vilander, trying to be in position as they get down towards that brake zone. This is the approach to turn 3 we're looking at. Souček looks to the inside. Tony takes it in deep.
Ooh, and he's wide. See if yeah, he's really pushing the envelope there in the exit of 3. I thought Souček might be close enough to get the nose underneath, but maybe a bit too early to get too aggressive.
Awesome action here.
Yes.
The Bentleys have looked pretty dominant, even though the Porsches kind of kept them honest in qualifying. Tony Vilander, so much experience, knew that the start was going to be critical. He would have been disappointed with qualifying in the 4th position here yesterday, but has made a statement early.
The season finale, the second race, coming up under the lights this evening, and fastest in the night practice session with Matt Campbell in one of those Porsches, to give you an idea of how stout they've been.
Well, this is a racetrack where you need to get the power down, and certainly with the weight distribution of the Porsche, should be very effective. But Vilander not making any mistakes now. On board with Andy Souček as we climb aboard that Bentley. He starts to hustle it around the speedway. Run up above that line there, Greg.
Yeah, up through that north apron, and you can get above the line.
Oh, Tony's in deep. Little wiggle there under braking, as you can see from the onboard from Andy. Tony there, that red Ferrari didn't look stable there into the brake zone.
Yeah, not at all. What I was going to say is where that white line sort of blacked out, you can float up over there, but once it comes back to white, you're supposed to be down underneath it. Boy, and Souček got a run, didn't he?
Got a big run. Looking to the inside. How deep does he want to go? Oh, it's going to be tight. Tony just opens up his hands and gives him the lane.
Smart move, because otherwise they were going to grind a little bit. And Souček's on a mission.
He's got a faster car. The key is now, can he go chase down that Porsche up in front with Scott Hargrove behind the wheel?
Hargrove's last lap, fastest of the race at a 33.359. But that top group is all in the 33s right now. Now with clean air on the nose of that Bentley, let's see what kind of a lap Souček can throw down. Great views out these back cameras here.
This is awesome.
Yep.
A fun section of the racetrack here. You've got to be so patient. That's turn 10. You see that big tire bundle through that right-hand sweeper. Vilander using these curves, trying to figure out a way to get back on top of that Bentley, but seems like Souček's got more pace right now.
It's interesting to watch Vilander's line through turn 10 where that tire bundle marks the apex. He squares that up quite a bit more while Souček just sort of flowed through, gave up a little bit more.
Well, the key is that a lot of the drivers have talked about this racetrack being akin to a street circuit. Remember the start of 2018, Greg? Scott Hargrove swept the streets of St. Petersburg. He likes this style of racetrack.
Well, that's true. There are parts of this track that feel very much like a street course, and that level of precision where you're driving with those concrete walls, and it's something that he seems to excel at. And look at the gap Soucek's put on Vilander already as he's been able to drive away. Those top three have moved through, and Baptista has been able to now get around Anthony Imperato and has put that blue liveried or trimmed Bentley up into the 4th spot, although he ran a little wide there, and Imperato took a run at him. We just got word from race control that the number 58 has to give back 1 position for not respecting the track limits.
Well, it's easy to give it back to the guy he took advantage of now because Soucek has got around Vilander, so certainly the K-Pax team will be giving that information to Andy Soucek. So Scott Hargrove's hard work here is now going to come to naught as you see the graphic up on the screen. Right, Motorsports will be delivering that information to Scott. He's got to try and do it without losing too much time. Don't want to suddenly allow Vilander back all over him for the what will become 2nd position.
And how long do you fight this? Because right now, if you give it up, you give up 2.4 seconds. If you don't give it up and end up with a drive-through, you give up 24 seconds. Pretty simple math to me.
Yeah, he's got to do it. He's going to try and just figure out where to do it as the key. Probably through the slower section, through the infield, may be the way to go, because then he can just jump back on the gas. Trying to time at the end of one of the straightaways is more difficult. It's being helped a little bit that Soucek has now gapped Vilander by 1.8 seconds, so he's got a little cushion there. He's got a little air pocket that he can kind of slot into and then go back on the attack. He has a fast race car.
Yes, he does, and I think that's the real key point there is do it now. One, because it gives you as much time as you can to fight back, but 2, with that big margin, Soucek to Vilander, you can let Soucek through, get right back on it, and still have some room.
In this battle here for the Pro-Am lead, Imperato has Bechtelsheimer put in a brilliant lap to claim the pole position. I think the big surprise is Mike Kedlin in 5th, and a long way back, 5 seconds off this battle for the Pro-Am. We saw him kind of struggling in that brake zone, so I'm not sure if there's a technical issue aboard that 43 real-time Acura. It's strange to see Mike Kedlin, who's been on a tail of his 5th consecutive victory, dropping back from the pack.
Yeah, and he's running laps that are a fair bit slower than everybody around him. He just turned a 38.6, Barkey a 35.6, Fuentes a 35.8, Bechtelsheimer a 36 flat, so I think you might be onto something there. And it's kind of fun, isn't it, to see Martin Fuentes now up into the Pro-Am category after clinching the Am Championship, and he's finding that game a little bit to play with these Pro-Am boys.
It is, and he's got a great teammate as well. Renger van der Zande, who he shared a car with in prototype competition a handful of years back. They remained friends and gave him the call.
Well, we've been waiting to see when Hargrove is going to let Andy Soucek through, his co-driver, Pat Long, in the pits. Here he goes. It's happening. It looks like it's happening right now, and he's going, Andy, go. And he is through, Ryan.
Yeah, it sounds like the swap has just taken place. Patrick Long, you were watching your car on the start. You saw what happened. What was your impression about the way that the start played out and ultimately the way that the decisions were handed down?
Yeah, I mean, this is sprint racing, so we had to roll the dice. The Bentleys have been very strong in a straight line, so we had to play to a plan. Scott did a great job, and unfortunately the officials didn't agree with how it took place. I do respect their call, and I'm glad that we're going to get to race this to the end instead of having a drive-through or a post-race discussion about it.
Yeah, the car has been pretty quick all weekend. The Porsche has been strong, maybe stronger than we've seen in a few rounds. How much of an invigorating aspect is that? Does that bring to the team, knowing you've got the pace to go and fight?
Yeah, I mean, tighter, technical, lower grip tracks are good for us. There's still a little bit of variable in the straight line speed issues, but other than that, we like our tire wear. We're soft on the tires with the GT3R, so we're going to push there to the end and see if we can hold this one on.
Racing race 1 in the sunshine. We've got it under the lights tonight. How different do you expect the two races to be?
Yeah, it's very different. The visibility is tough. It's very bright on the oval, and then you go into the infield, it's pitch black. There's tire packs out there. It's hard to see the track limits and the line, so it'll be a much different race. Obviously, with all the pros starting in race 2, it's different than in race 1, so I'll have a little bit of heavy lifting to do there in those first few laps, but we'll just play our cards and see what comes up here in Vegas.
Thanks as always.
The first reference to playing the cards in Vegas comes up. Now watch this here. Hargrove got the run, Cal, but it's the exit of 8 where the issue was.
It was, but look how tight they are as they get on the brakes there for turn 8, and Hargrove just sweeps the outside. He has to run wide. That's the track limit violation. And watch Tony Vilander. He tucks to the inside and takes advantage of Soucek trying to figure things out. Moves up to the second spot, but Soucek got that position back a little bit later in the running.
And as everybody drifted a little wide, that's where Imperato was able to jump from 6th to 4th. He's now running in the 5th spot, so he took advantage of opportunity as well, as we are now watching our new race leader, Andy Soucek, of the number 9 Bentley Continental GT3 from Capex. If we look back, that is the margin back to second. Scott Hargrove, the Porsche Consulting Wright Motorsports Porsche.
Not letting the Bentley get away, but as Pat Long alluded to, the Bentley's pretty strong in the straight line stakes, so it might be tough for Hargrove to figure out a way. See if they encounter any traffic before the end of this stint. Remember, there's a mandatory pit stop that takes place 40 to 50 minutes in, where there'll be a driver change, fuel be put on board, and 4 fresh Pirelli P0s for the second driver in this race.
Look there at Tony Vilander in the R Ferry Ferrari. What a couple of years he has had in this championship, and had a couple of different co-drivers in this one, but every time they bring a co-driver for Tony, that co-driver is wicked fast as well, and has played out beautifully for him in terms of these championships.
It really has. They brought in Daniel Serra and got 3 out of the 4 victories when he was here, so 6 wins on the season for Tony, 3 for Miguel Molina. But Molina did a beautiful job in qualifying yesterday. He's going to start on the front row for tomorrow's race, and he can get up on the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of action yet to be decided here today.
Here at Rodrigo Baptista, young man, and this would be the completion of his first year and a half of professional racing at the very top of the queue here in GT3, and he is just impressive.
He really is, and he just laid down his fastest lap of the race, which is just a couple of tenths off the fastest laps that have been turned here today. So got buried a little bit at the start, had to fight his way through cleanly. I will say, I mean, he was so dominant at Watkins Glen to finish off our season in 2018, Greg. I expected a lot, but I think with this new generation Bentley that the team are utilizing this year, not sure he's quite found the edge that he had at the end of last year, so we expected him to come out and be tough to beat. He's just kind of been a little bit on the back foot, but nonetheless super impressive, super consistent with his teammate Maxime Soulet from Belgium.
I think he was just super comfortable in that old generation Bentley. He really had it figured out, knew what he could do with it here. And they say this car is definitely an improvement, but in ways it's a bit edgier. And that just, sometimes takes a little bit longer to just adjust to it here. So we're watching Anthony Imperato. What a start he put on here, jumping, as we said, from 6th to 4th and into the lead, which he continues to hold for the Pro-Am category, now 5th overall.
Talk about impressive, his teammate, the Aussie Matt Campbell. He's already won Bathurst, he's already won a class at Le Mans. Just super impressive, and he's going to be on maximum attack when he takes over the reins of this Porsche.
Here's Till Bechtelsheimer in the Gradient Racing Unit Nutrition Acura NSX, sitting in the 2nd spot. He was on pole in the Pro-Am category for this race, runs 2nd right now. And then Martin Fuentes in that multiple color liveried machine, the Squadra Corsa Hublot Ferrari.
Looking at the lap times amongst our Pro-Am competitors, we talk about Mike Headland having a kind of a strange and conservative start to this race. He's now starting to turn some fast lap times, so he's figured things out in the 43 car, see if he can chase down these guys, but he's a long way back. Currently about 3 seconds back of Barkey, who's about 1.5 seconds back of this little battle we're looking at.
Would it be possible, Cal, right before this race, they had a touring car race, would it be possible that somewhere on that opening lap he got wide somewhere and just picked up a ton of marbles on his tires and it just took a few laps?
That's possible. You know, we saw at the end of the first half lap, let's call it, when they came down into that brake zone, he suddenly just got on the brakes super early and got past there and then took a while to settle back in, but now he's turning fast lap times.
Here's the number 80 entry from Racer's Edge, the MBRP Performance Exhaust entry in the hands of Martin Barkey. That is the team that are leading the driver's points and the team points. Sizable margin in the driver's points. Team points, whole different deal.
Yeah, only 2 points between they and the 43 car right behind them. So this next half of the race is going to be crucial. Headland needs to just try and close in, let the real-time boys do their work in pit lane. There's a 58-second minimum time in the pits for that mandatory stop, so that could be crucial in terms of getting that done as close to the margin as you can. And then also talking to some of the teams this weekend, the key is going to be the outlap, how you encounter traffic. Not a lot of tire deck, so I don't think the undercut is going to have such an advantage here. Undercut meaning coming in a little bit early, getting those warm tires on with the tire warmers we have in effect now, and getting out on the fresher Pirellis and trying to cut some hard laps.
You ride on board with Andy Soucek, his teammate in pit lane with Ryan.
Yeah, Alvaro Carrent will be taking over the controls of that Bentley once the pit stop comes around. Not the start that Andy was looking for sure, but a nice recovery to race his way past the Ferrari and then to take advantage of the decision from race control to let the Porsche pull over and have you guys go by. Nice to see the car, though, stout enough to go toe-to-toe with the Ferrari and get that position on merit.
Yeah, well, definitely great for Andy to pass the Ferrari. I didn't really understand too well what went on the start, but the 58 had to give the position back. I think he exceeded track limits, and we're where we want at the moment. It's a long race. Let's see what happens, but it's going very well so far.
Unfortunately, the Drivers' Championship is out of reach coming into this weekend, but the Teams' Championship and Manufacturers' Championship are still out there. How motivated are you to deliver that to the team for all their hard work?
We're going to do our best for sure. The weekend started on a perfect way, you know, with 2 poles, and at the moment we're on the position that we want to be. We'll see, you know, if we can do it at the end. It's, like I said, a long race, and I like to speak only at the end, but it's going well so far.
Hopefully we'll talk to you at the end. Good luck.
I hope so.
14-point margin in those team points between our Ferrari and back, and as they run right now, they would take a big chunk of those back, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it'd be a 10-point swing, so it certainly put it all on the line for tomorrow, or tonight, excuse me.
Yeah.
Got locked into the doubleheader weekend. It's tonight, 2 races in one day. Here, Soucek just laid down the fastest lap of the race at a 1:33.0, so this track is rubbering in. His pole lap was only a 32.4, so that was a much lighter fuel load. So the racetrack is gaining grip.
And these qualifying runs, Andy did the first qualifying run, put it on pole. Alvaro took over the car. Andy gave him some really good input. They made a couple of tweaks on the car and out went Alvaro and promptly put it on pole again, 4/10 quicker than Soucek did. Soucek's comments in the interview were absolutely delightful, where he started off being, just fun and saying, "I can't believe a teammate would do that to me." And he said, "No," he said, "Alvaro's magic." He said, "We made some changes to the car, but not 4/10 worth." He said, he found something special.
He is special, and
yeah.
Andy's a great teammate and a rapid driver as well. But Alvaro, when he finds that magic lap, it's almost untouchable.
Yeah, he's incredible. And watching Alvaro run in those sketchy conditions at Road America, and his willingness to be as on the edge as possible, use every piece of track with very little margin, and just be consistently precise in his lines and be able to pull it off. And you don't put together a number of pole positions without having that raw speed, and they've had it.
What a battle here in the Pro-Am class between drivers and manufacturer. Porsche leads with Imperato. Bechtelsheimer has that second position. We're looking at it right in front of this Ferrari of Martin Fuentes, and behind him there's 2 Acuras that are not only duking it out for position on the racetrack, but also for points in that team championship. Barkey has the position right now, but you can see Headland in the backdrop there, starting to close in on that bright orange and chrome liveried real-time Acura. And what a day it was at Road America, Greg. They not only got the overall victory, but win number 100 for real-time.
And at home. Their shops are based only 30 miles from the racetrack there. Yeah, it was about as special as it could possibly be. And to do it with an overall win with that 100th as a Pro-Am pairing, that's pretty remarkable. Just noticing, talk about remarkable in terms of closeness. Top 4 cars, all pro cars. The best lap times, 33.0, 33.1, 33.3, 33.3. The next 5 cars are all Pro-Am cars, 34.5, 34.6, 34.6, 34.8, 34.2. I mean, you can't get much closer than that. And Barkey responding now. He just set his best lap of the race.
Yeah, he is. He can see that pressure. That bright orange is shining bright in his rearview mirror right now.
And bling is bright.
Blinging it.
This is through the south apron.
See the different lines that everyone's trying to figure out. Barkey way down at the inside. Mike Kendlin just letting the car have its head a little bit, freeing it up, coming off that corner.
Well, that's the trade-off, isn't it? If you run the the wider line, the car could be a bit more free. Maybe you carry a smidge more speed. If you run that really tight line, you're running the shorter line through the corner. It might be pretty close to equal. It just depends on what you feel comfortable with, I suppose.
And you just experiment. You see the car ahead of you, you kind of have that gaze. Okay, if I run this line, where do I end up by the time I get to the brake zone? And just experiment with that a little bit. Talking to Dane Cameron, who's Mike Hedlund's teammate in this number 43 Acura, he said we have a really good race car on the long runs, very little drop off in times. We did not have a good qualifying car. They've struggled with that a little bit all season long, even though they've had a few pole positions. Just can't seem to ring that one lap pace, but over the 90-minute race, that's where they've really been performing.
I think this has just been a breakout year for Mike Hedlund. I mean, he's been quick in stuff he's driven, and he's had podiums and the like, but he just seems to have connected with this Acura NSX, and he also seems to be a driver who just sort of innately understands how to drive a downforce car.
He does, and he doesn't really understand what pressure is, it seems, because he's had a couple of times. He held off the pros for a long time at Watkins Glen, eventually let them through, but been put at the front of the pack and has dealt with it superbly. And at Road America, he said, I'm just digging deep, and brought home the overall victory.
And absolutely, in the car that he's chasing right now in the hands of Martin Barkey from Racer's Edge, this is this team's first season running up at this level of competition. And Ryan Marine, they have adapted amazingly well.
They have. It's been a great battle all season long between Real Time and Racer's Edge. John Meraki from Racer's Edge joining us here in the pits, and the guys have been marveling at what a season you put together, stepping up into GT3 competition. I know you had high hopes when the season began, but has this maybe even exceeded some of the goals that you had set for yourself?
Well, I suppose leading the championship all year, I'd have to admit, exceeded expectations. I hoped to be competitive. I felt confident we would be. So yeah, in that sense, absolutely, we've exceeded expectations.
Kyle and Martin, in some senses, were known commodities coming into the year, but it seems like they've really raised their game along with the team, and it's just been a real family kind of atmosphere with so much success with the relationships bearing fruit.
Oh, absolutely. I have known those guys for years and always wanted to work with them, and the chemistry between the two of them is really important to the success of everything. But yeah, well, I think it's a good fit, everyone, chemistry-wise. So yeah, it's been very enjoyable.
And how about this weekend so far? Good pace from the car, good pace from the drivers. What do you expect as we look at the second half of this race?
Well, I hope that everything continues as it is. Right now we're competitive. Martin's turning competitive times. We're just running through, all of the normal pace at this point. Just trying to hold the position, wait till the last half hour and race it when Kyle gets in. But yeah, everything's great and going according to plan so far.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
I'll tell you what, Martin might be running into a little bit of an issue here, Ryan, as he has now been forced to up his game, and it has driven him from the pressure from Hedlund, has driven him right up onto the back of Martin Fuentes. And even though this track doesn't necessarily have those long, super fast corners where you get massive aero on these cars, you still lose a little bit of the nose in the wash of that car, don't you?
You do. Certainly, these GT3 cars are very dependent on that front aero, the dams and the little winglets and stuff, so it starts to take that away when you're following closely a car in front of you. But Barkey's doing a superb job here. Really nice run, but you can see Hedlund now probing. He just laid down his fastest lap of the race.
Oh! Fuentes running way wide, and both of them are through.
That solves the problem that you're talking about for Barkey. Little mistake there. You don't see that happen very often from Martin.
No, you don't. Let's see what he's got here.
Barkey there just floating up onto the speedway, banking a little bit. You're certainly entitled to do that. Then duck back down by the time you get to the brake zone.
Let's watch it again here, Cal.
So this sets up. This is that fast right-hand sweeper. Martin just comes in here and just does a little bit too much from the car. Runs out wide. Has to give it up a little bit. You can see there he's in trouble. And both Barkey and Hedlund take advantage of that situation quickly.
Just saw that little wiggle, and he just exceeded what the car had capable in it at that moment.
Got to be so patient. Those last couple of corners, I think, are the trickiest. You just got to try and be patient, not make a mistake, and get a good clean exit. You try and charge the corner a little bit, and you get outside of the groove. There's no grip there. Essentially, you're on the green part of the racetrack, which is what the whole racetrack was quite like when they first hit the racetrack here on Thursday.
And yeah, Martin ran the last couple of races after starting the season with Cesar Baccarella, and which is the main run to that championship in the AM category. Ran with Marquisa, a Ferrari Challenge guy, stepping up and trying it. And this weekend with Renger van de Zande, and that's going to be fun. Here is our leader in the AM categories, the Turner Motorsports BMW, in the hands of Takeda-san right now, running back in the 12th spot overall. And he's going to leave that door open just a little bit, and does.
He and Shirasaka have been a joy to have in our paddock this weekend. They found a great team. They seem like a fun couple of guys, and they found one of the most fun teams in terms of Will Turner's Turner Motorsport operation, so it's a good fit.
And they gave it a try and did one race last year and just really enjoyed running in this championship. And busy guys racing in Asia as well, but they said any opening we have, we want to come and run, and they were able to put this 4-race package for this year.
Yeah, this M6 is a bit longer in the tooth than some of the other GT3 manufacturers out there, but it's still showing great promise over this year. Had a lot of great results worldwide on the global stage, so they're still pacing that BMW.
Oh, and there Vilander was hoping that he was going to leave the door open, and he did a bit, and then dipped the brake at the exit and let Vilander sweep around.
It cost Tony a couple of tenths there in that little exchange, which he will not be happy about, knowing Tony. He's never one to shy away from his feelings. He'll be on the radio, giving an earful to his teammate.
Speaking of Mr. Vilander, we hop on board as the R Ferry Ferrari working through the North Apron now. And these are just absolute flat chat runs. I mean, you dance a little bit in there, but you're just flat on the throttle pretty much throughout here, aren't you?
You are. You can see there he's easing off the gas and on the brakes there just before the finish line. At the end of this race at the checkered, everyone will just go straight so we don't get any problems with trying to brake and people slowing down for the chicane and someone else just blowing it. So that was certainly discussed heavily over the course of this weekend. Such a unique layout with this Roval. There's a few quirks to it, but I think they've developed a good game plan for the drivers.
One of the things I noticed, and you can see it from some of the shots from the outside of the car if there's good visibility, but these onboard shots, the quick switch of hand direction that you have to have in turns 1 and 2, I mean, it's just rocket fast.
It really is, and if you want to use the curbs typically to get that compliancy with a race car and the suspension, you need to soften it up a little bit, but this racetrack also demands that you get that fast change of direction where you need the front end kind of pointy on the nose, as they call it, so the hands can change direction quickly and the car goes with you. And one typically doesn't work with the other. If you've got a compliant car, it's going to compromise that quick change of direction a little bit.
There's that rim shot through the long turn 9. That's turn 10. It's into that tricky turn 11. Here you can use that first curb. This second one here, yeah, not so much.
Tony now 4 seconds back of Scott Hargrove. Soucek, once he's got to the front, has extended the gap, which will give the Capex team a little bit of a cushion to work with strategy and with their pit stop. 10 minutes away, 11 minutes away from the pit window opening. See that profile on that turn 1 and 2 curbing there? It's got like a little hat to it. If you get over that, it can really unsettle the race car.
So you just get those tires up on the face of the curb and don't go up and over the backside.
I think that's the way to go. You know, I spent a good bit of time down there just observing close to the racetrack this weekend, and if you climb all over them, you may get away with it on fresh tires, but as you get a little bit of tired, because we see this battle heating up for the 4th position in the Pro-Am class between the two Acuras. If you climb over those curbs too much, I just think you're going to lose time getting back on the power.
Up in front of these guys, just to let you know, the number 5 of Bechtelsheimer, Till just turned his best lap of the race at 34.4. And he's put in a few of those, and that's why he's got a margin of about 2 seconds. You can see them up the road, Till battling with Imperato, and then Barkey and Headland here duking it out for 3rd in class.
Headland so smooth, but Barkey is just not succumbing to this pressure right now. He's been faultless so far in this race. Say it's his drive of the season, to be honest with you. They've had wins, but this is a great run for him.
Yes, it is. Behind them, Fuentes, after that bobble, still sitting 5th in class. And then George Kurtz in the 04 CrowdStrike Mercedes from DXDT Racing. Normally there are 2 of those cars here. And David Askew had that incident at Road America, and I said, just too much damage to repair when I was talking to the crew, and they went, no, he had a prior commitment. He's sailing in the Maldives. And I went, fair enough.
Ryan Dial, his co-driver, is here with the team, though, just giving as much input as he can. So much experience, the Scotsman, who drove with David this year.
Yes, had some tremendous qualifying runs, Ryan did. A number of top 3 overall qualifying efforts and the like. And David Askew, I mean, you know, prior to getting into racing cars, he was a big boat racer.
Avid sailor and very successful as well.
So there's that 04 CrowdStrike Mercedes. We hop on board now with George Kurtz. He's had a number of security summits, they call it. CrowdStrike, of course, his company, and it's generally acknowledged as the top in cybersecurity, and I mean on a military governmental level. It's big stuff. When you put together, they call them CXOs, these summits where the CEOs of a number of companies would come in and learn about things and how to better protect their data and the like, and had a big one at Road America, and George said it was an awesome success. They were very happy with how things have turned out.
Yeah, and they're totally into the motorsports platform in terms of spreading the word. They're on board the Mercedes Formula One team as well.
Well, and they're, you know, also a sponsor of this championship as the official, you know, cybersecurity partner. Well, what would, you know, the connection be? When you get to thinking about it, you've got a team where you're running 2 cars. There's, what, hundreds of sensors on the cars. The amount of data that pours in is immense. You can't keep that in that little handwritten log, you know, notebook anymore. It's immense amounts of data you can't store on a flash drive. You got to put it somewhere. A little bobble there by Imperato. So it's now it's up in the cloud. We need to protect that because that's pretty proprietary, and that's where CrowdStrike comes in. So I mean, it does tie together kind of nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, George has put together a fantastic corporation there. Looking at this battle, though, for the lead in Pro-Am. Imperato, as you said, a little bobble there, getting towards late in the run on these tires, so maybe he's starting to lose the balance just a little bit. He's had a great run, though, but Till Bechtelsheimer, a great qualifying performance, and he is keeping the heat on that Porsche in front of him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Barkey has found it as well, because Bechtelsheimer had about 1.8 seconds over Barkey, and that's, excuse me, had almost 2.8 seconds over Barkey. That's down to 2.1.
Well, it's going to really put the heat on the teams to execute a good pit stop here. We got about 7 minutes away from those pit stops happening, and there's just a handful of seconds between the top 4 in this class.
And the way that they design that minimum pit window time is, you know, how quickly can a team do those stops and then add the delta to driving down the pit lane. So it's not like you've got a casual amount of time. You've got to be spot on to get these done.
If you absolutely nail it, you should have a handful of seconds, like 3, 4, 5 seconds to spare. But if you have any issues, suddenly you're outside of that time, and you're giving up time to your competitors. Imperato there, really wide there through turn 8. Till has done a nice job of just keeping the pressure on.
About a minute and a half.
He'd love to get the track position, but most importantly, he needs to be right on the tail of that Porsche when that pit stop window opens.
Yes.
Give his team the opportunity to execute.
Sorry, I said minute and a half. I think it's 6.5 minutes, right? That's when the window will open.
Yep.
Hop back on board again.
Radiant Racing, led by Anders Labens, has done a nice job here. Had some really big runs, but look at this run. Talking about it, Hedlund putting the pressure on Barkey. But he's a savvy racer. He typically doesn't force the issue unless there's a genuine opportunity there. He is forcing Barkey's hand there. I think he's trying to get him to make a mistake. Now he's got a run. This will be big down towards the run, down to turn 3 into that brake zone.
Looked like Bechtelsheimer has lost a little bit of touch suddenly with Imperato. You know, yep, Mike showing the nose just a little bit and lurking behind them.
Barkey in there a little bit shallow. He loses a bit of time through the apex. Some lap traffic up ahead could have an effect on this position right now. Hedlund would love to sneak by if he could, but he's just got to keep the pressure on and be right there if they do come in together. Try and let the real-time racing group execute.
And Fuentes behind them in the Ferrari. Coming up in the back of the BMW. This is a pretty serpentine bit of racetrack here.
Look at Hedlund there. Everyone's starting to get innovative with their lines, trying to find a way through. Corners keep coming at you so quickly, though, on this infield section. It's hard to get it clean. He looks to the inside again.
Yeah, there's really no place to rest on this track at all. You're constantly turning.
Oh, look at Barkey there. He's held up a little bit. This is going to be really tight. It funnels down right there.
Oh.
Decatur does a great job of giving these drivers room, but it gives Headland the run.
Headland close enough to get a little bit of a toe here. Now he's going to cut down underneath. He was thinking about it. You realize it's so narrow getting into that zone. And the margin for Imperato, Bechtelsheimer behind the Turner car, that's opened up to about 1.3. Then incredibly close, obviously, between those two.
Headland is getting the run. Seems like Barkey maybe running a little bit less downforce. He seems to stretch it a little bit, even with Headland getting the draft effect. Had to dive back out of the inside lane there. Now tucks it back to the inside. It's a drag race off of turn 3.
Oh, and look at that. Barkey knew Headland was coming, and Headland, a big slide, is going to cost him momentum. But Barkey exited as shallow as he could and was right where Headland was going. That was a pretty savvy piece of racecraft by Barkey, knowing he'd overcooked it a bit.
Yeah, and Headland had to throw the anchors out, I think, to avoid from hitting him, pins the nose, and that loosens up the rear at the same time. Lost a bit of ground. He needs to regroup here a little bit. Only got 3 minutes plus a little bit before that pit lane window opens. Again, I think you just got to be smart here. Typically, with the lower graded driving started the race here, they have to qualify and start the race. You're going to want to get your pro, your faster man in as soon as possible. So you would think that most of these teams will be diving in relatively early in that 10-minute window. Don't throw it away. You don't want to make a move and lose 2 seconds right as everyone's coming into pit lane. You're better to be right hovering on his rear bumper.
Up front of these guys, just to give you an update, Imperato in the 91 Porsche from Wright Motorsports, just setting his fast lap of the race as he's continuing to control that over a second margin now. Back to Bechtelsheimer in this battle.
I mean, there's just zero tire deg. I mean, looking at Imperato and Bechtelsheimer just ran laps within a tenth of their best of the race. There you see the gap.
Yep. Fuentes has recovered a little bit, has thrown down some good laps, and is now finding himself, he's less than a second and a half behind this Barkey Headland duel.
Well, these two battling is costing them about a second and a half in lap time, so that's really stretching the gap out. That's going to really aid Imperato and Bechtelsheimer's team, because these two drivers, by fighting, has allowed the first and second place runners to streak away a little bit. That's not what their teams would be looking for. You can see Fuentes is suddenly getting closer to them.
Exactly. Let's go back and watch this moment we're talking about here.
So he tucks it down to the inside. He's hard on the power, and then as you get to that sweeper, just has to give it up. He gets up on the curb there, picks up a little bit of the grip from that left front, and that loosens up the rear.
That's quickly recovered. He's going to try an outside move here in 11 and 12.
Yeah, this is risky stuff. This is really high-risk stuff right now at this stage of the game. I know he wants to get that position. This is for the team's championship in terms of the points. Now they'll be affected, but don't throw it all away.
Now, by the time they come by start-finish, they would be able to pit next time. The window should be open. It's going to be a matter of, as you said, how quick you want the pros in. And look at Fuentes. He has just reeled them in.
And sometimes just the way the timing works out, it's not necessarily the leaders who have the first opportunity to pit. Last year was a rule in place that they had to have that opportunity. This year, as soon as that window opens, you can dive.
I'll tell you, Headland was all over the back of Barkey, and then he dove and used that really tight line, and it looked like it gave him just a little bit of an edge. I think it's a shorter run. So we're on board with Fuentes, watching this battle up front.
Who's going to make that call? Clock hits 50 to go. Pit lane will open. And leaders may be already by the pit entrance for that to happen for them.
Here we go, turn 8. Ooh, Barkey, little bobble under braking there.
I wonder if he's thinking about a pit stop, and that can lose. Oh, and now Headland is wide out in the grey, tries to recover here. Fuentes is putting the pressure back on in the Ferrari. We're on board with him. These drivers are pushing really, really hard. Pit window is open. Who will dive early?
Hedlund gets to the wall there.
Barkey's coming. It's like he's tightening it up. He's in. Hedlund stays out for one more lap. Critical decisions right here. Might have been in pit lane.
Fuentes in. He'll be turning over to Renger van de Zande. Great to have that name back in the paddock of this championship. Fuentes in. Imperato in as well. Looks like Beckelsheimer may have stayed out for another lap too. This is 58 seconds from the time you hit the pit in timing line to the pit out timing line, 24 of which is the transit down pit lane. It's not good usually. You hear somebody yelling like that, there's a refueler looking over the shoulder. For Imperato, they're done, he sits. Interesting to see. All right. Well, I'll tell you, I think that may have been a little bit long for the number 80 team. The number 61 in from third, Vielander. And the Bentley's in as well. Looking at those first stop, Barkey to Marcelli.
Not good.
65 seconds.
Yeah, they left 7 seconds on the board there, so this will give the real-time team who comes in a lap later here. Hedlund going to switch over to Dane Cameron, coming off a prototype championship just a week ago.
Yeah, Imperato Campbell, that one 62. So they left 4 on the table.
Great start by Scuderia Corsa.
Wow.
Point taste of Van der Zande, 58.4. Remember, there's a joker second you can work with over the course of the 2 races here this weekend. So if you're underneath it, but not more than a second, you can utilize that today as well, but only once during the 2 races.
And Baptista's turn over to Soule, 58.7, another great stop. Apex known for that this year. They have really been putting him in, but that 58.4 by TR3 Scuderia Corsa, or Squadra Corsa, excuse me, just marvelous. That's going to put Renger van de Zande right up into the mix. As staying out is Suchek.
He's running great lap times. His last lap was a 1:33 flat. His best is a 1:32.9, so they have the pace. There's basically 0 tire deg from these Pirelli P0s. They are hanging on really strongly here on this circuit.
Matter of fact, Suchek just had the fastest third sector time of the race. So they are working really well. Watch this stop here as Hargrove in, turning over to Long.
A lot of it is all about what traffic you will hit when you come out. So they have like a software program that gives them a shadow car. They can see where they will come back out. And that will be a critical factor here today, I believe.
Hargrove to Long, a minute even. It's 2 seconds over the minimum.
Hedlund to Cameron, 59.6. So that was about 5-second difference between them and Racer's Edge. That should give the 43 car track position over the 80 car, which again is crucial in terms of the team championship between Real Time and Racer's Edge.
All right, leader is in, Suchek. Onto the pit speed limiter. Making that big, slow run down into the Capex pit.
50 kilometers an hour. Feels like you're at a standstill when you've been blasting around this speedway.
Alvaro Parent standing by.
This is what they call the overcut, staying out a little bit longer. Andy put in a brilliant lap. And now Parent, the magic man, behind the wheel.
Interesting with this track running in counterclockwise form. The driver change now is not up against that pit wall. These guys actually have some room for the first time.
That's right. Normally it's very tight when the track is the other direction where all of the action is taking place right around the driver's door. We actually saw it become a problem here. So the Bentley's on pit lane. Now we see the 58 up to speed with Pat Long as Parent now gets up to speed. It's going to be close. And again, with the tire warmers this year, allows Pat Long to be immediately on the pace.
Look at that stop, 58.2.
Superb execution once again by K-Pax, looking for another victory. So in the background there, Miguel Molina aboard the number 61. They had a 62-second stop. There's Baptista and Andy Suchek. Chat about that run.
You can see everybody pretty darn pleased. It was a great stop. It was a great drive. And here we go. It's the number 5 now in the hands of Mark Miller. On board the Unit Nutrition Gradient Racing entry with the 91 in the hands of the wickedly quick Matt Campbell right behind him.
This is a battle for the lead in class. Miller has it right now. A nice start by the Gradient Racing team. Kept that position. And in the background, you see Dane Cameron. Here comes Matt Campbell, a big run in the Porsche. What can he do with it? Try and tuck it in and just try and time the draft as they come off of the loaded part of this corner to be in position by the time they get to the brake zone. Looks like the Acura's got a little bit more straight line speed than the Porsche, though. Campbell looks to the inside.
Thinks better of it, tucks back in. Cameron behind him, and behind him is Renger van de Zandt. Oh, Campbell getting a nice run through the exit of 3, but turn 4 comes up really fast.
It does. There's not a lot of time to get it done, and if you do, you're probably going to trade paint to try and make the move. Campbell's hand may be forced. You can see that bright orange and chrome livery, number 43, edging closer.
Late
move to the inside. Miller protects, opens up his hands to give them both racing room. This is costing them lap time, though, and allowing Cameron to close in.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a great move by Campbell on 2 levels. One, it was a late attack, and if it flustered Miller, got him rattled a little bit, got him offline, he was through. But he also recognized that Miller had covered it beautifully and had enough margin to check up and avoid contact. That was some great racecraft.
Cameron's last lap was a 1.5 seconds quicker than the 2 guys in front of him, so he's getting ever closer. But that's going to kind of plateau a little bit. But if they keep fighting and compromising their lines, that'll just be to the benefit of Dane Cameron right behind this lead duo in the Pro-Am class.
And that margin now, Miller, Campbell, Cameron. Yeah, I mean, Dane's now within 0.8 of Campbell at this part, so that is close. Up front, Parent has taken over, and that margin at a 6-second lead.
And this whole dynamic, Greg, was affected by Barkey and Headland getting into that battle. They lost a lot of time to the 91 and the 5 car. Otherwise, with the execution of the pit stop, they could have probably had the 43 car out in front, but that gap exploded there in that last 5 laps before the pit stops are open.
Yeah, it did. Molina, by the way, just turning that car's fastest lap of the race at a 32.9. And Long just setting fast lap of the race at a 32.912. He's trying to close down on Parent.
Miller again a little bit wide there through turn 8, costing time. Cameron inching closer, but Campbell is being patient right now. I'm not sure how long that patience is going to last. Great job here by Mark Miller, though, resisting the pressure from behind.
He's had a nice year here. He's had a nice year in other championships, a recently crowned champion in one of the championships he's running. So a lot of experience for Mark Miller and a long connection with this team. It's running now as Gradient Racing, but really was sort of the genesis from the C.J. Wilson racing team that Mark's been associated with forever. So this is family.
The longer he can keep that car in front, the more confidence he's going to gain in thinking, I can just keep that Porsche at bay. Cameron there just in the shadows of these two right now, just trying to see how this one's going to play out.
Well, you're right. It just seems like that Acura has just a little bit more
just
in
enough.
terms of top end. And so if Miller, and you know he's a savvy driver, if he can overslow that Porsche in a couple of spots.
Miller's a little bit wide again. It looks like Campbell can tuck the front end of that Porsche a little bit more effectively through turn 3. I think Miller would love to be able to back up his brake point just a little bit, but he's worried about opening the door. Campbell looks to the inside in turn 6. That's not really a passing zone that we've seen so far today.
But it could be as this race unfolds. That's one of the, really to me, interesting things about coming to a venue that is absolutely a blank sheet in terms of knowledge for every team that comes in here. As the race unfolds, you're realize, you know, if he starts sliding here, I might be able to get a nose inside in a corner where you otherwise would never expect it.
Miller, Campbell just ran their fastest laps of the race. 34.2s. Cameron just a couple of seconds. He's up and over the curb. He loses time. Where is Cameron? He's going to get a big run on the Porsche.
Yep, here he comes. Pops to the outside. That's that huge curb. The TV angle on it, you just don't understand how steep that leading edge is and how high that curb is.
Campbell protects down low. Nowhere to go here. So tight through this sector.
First, second, and third in Pro-Am. There's Van de Zandt in the background in the Squadra Corsa Ferrari.
It doesn't look like the Ferrari has quite the pace of this leading trio, about 3 to 4 tenths off their pace right now, but if they keep battling, it'll allow Renger to close in as well.
Just in terms of that team championship status here, Kyle Marcelli in the number 80 MBRP Racer's Edge car, back in 5th. Here's a look at it right. He got a great run.
He did. He had to tuck it. He trying to use a lot of steering input there. The car was already sideways and then nowhere to go with it. So tight through that section, and you're up and over that big curb. He recovered nicely and showed the experience there just to be cool, calm, and collected and just maintain the track position, not allowing the door to open for Cameron.
So right now, the battle raging for the lead in the Pro-Am class. Miller, Campbell, and Cameron up front. Parent, Long, and Molina. But Parent has a bit in hand here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Campbell regrouping here, resetting, putting the pressure back on Mark Miller. Cameron has faded back a little bit. Typically, we see that number 43 car really consistent over the long run. Immediately, Cameron laid down the car's best lap and has now dropped off a couple of tenths.
Again, Campbell just gets a great launch out of that chicane. But right about here, as he gets close, suddenly that Acura stretches that margin out just a little bit.
From a driver's seat perspective, you just sense if you're close enough or not. And I think even someone as aggressive as Matt Campbell, he recognizes he's not quite close enough to make a legitimate move down into that brake zone. So that car length or two that the Acura pulls out in the mid-range, that little sideways moment for Miller, he's in trouble. Campbell looks to the inside.
But Campbell clouded that curb and the back end stepped out just a little bit. This is on.
Miller is hanging on to this by his fingernails right now.
Both those cars with those little bobbles, that's going to bring Cameron right back into the mix.
Right now, I'm not seeing the edge in Cameron's car to be able to go on the attack, but as these two fight, maybe that'll give him an opportunity.
I'm sorry, it'll bling Dane right back into the mix.
Miller, a little bit wide there through 10. I think this is what is creating that optimism for Campbell to try and go on the attack there. But it's just so tight, there's really nowhere to go with it.
He learned right there. Don't take the bait and try that inside move into 11-12, because that curb will bite you.
And it's just so tight here. You can see him close in a little bit into the brake zone. But it's all about this turn right there, getting on the power early. He gets a good run. He's as close as he's ever been.
Moves down to the way inside of the south apron.
This may give him the feeling that he can go on the attack. He's closer than he's ever been. He's not going to be closer coming off of turn 2, but still the Acura a little bit further ahead. Miller doing a nice job, just not making the critical error right now. He's had a few bobbles, but not a big enough one to allow Campbell to take advantage.
What I'm curious about is you see Cameron, when they come out of turn 12 and back on to that north apron, he just seems to lose a significant amount of ground for some reason.
Well, when we were looking at the battle between the 80 and the 43, it seemed to me like the 80 machine of Barkey was stretching Headland, who shares the 43, of course, with Cameron. So not sure if it's a downforce setting or something to miss with the 43 car today, but I think you're right. Just certainly in the straight line speed stakes, it doesn't seem to be quite there with the others.
There's not a huge amount of adjustment you can make on these cars aerodynamically, but I don't know whether they is that or it's just a rolling speed issue, but oh, Campbell getting a huge run that time.
It's so tough here, though, because it's so narrow by having to run that apron. By the time you get to the brake zone, there's just not enough racetrack to deal with making a move down into here. It'd be such a risky one.
You see what I mean there? Cameron through the infield was a lot closer, and then they just drop him coming out. There's just a slow corner mechanical grip acceleration issue he's dealing with.
This is just a real statement here by Mark Miller.
Yeah.
He has got two of the most recognized fast guys in the sports car paddock at the moment all over him, and he is not succumbing to that pressure. Big day for him.
Yes, indeed.
Drive-through penalty car 3-8. Pit stop infringement.
Campbell
Drive-through
trying to figure out this chess
penalty
match.
car
Where
3-8.
can he make the move?
Pit stop
Tightens it up
infringement.
there, gets a run. This may be it. Will he try and dive to the inside? But again, the aggro just stretches it enough at that critical moment. Miller's wide. Cameron's closing in. Is there going to be a bump and run? Campbell is ever closer. It's going to be tough to make a clean pass here. Looks to the inside.
No. Here's that run out of 12. You heard the announcement, by the way. It was a drive-through for the number 38 of Alex Barron. It was just a little short on the pit stop, I believe.
Cameron looks a bit closer this time.
Yes, he does. Yeah, big time closer.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's something going on technically with that 43. Remember, Headland at the start of this race struggled.
Yes.
And it seems like Cameron's car has come alive a little bit.
Well, could it be that they've just really played the long game on the tire pressures? You know?
Well, certainly coming in, and that's what they thought their advantage would be as later in the going. Is Cameron just being super smart here and waiting for the later stages of this race. Still a lot of time on the clock.
32.5 minutes remaining. This 13th and penultimate round of the championship. Finale later today under the lights here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
When you start to put the car in the position that Campbell is asking that Porsche to go, you're tightening your hands at the critical moment. That will add to any tire deck issues, but so far today, these Pirelli P0s have been superb. Just super consistent.
Run through turn 8 and into this big looping turn 9. This is where Campbell has been able to really get in here fast.
Yeah, the Porsche is really strong through this section.
All right, well, we've been speculating on if there's some sort of possible issue with the 43. Ryan, what are you hearing?
Everything sounds good. Just talked to Mike Headland, who had that first stint. He said everything's good. It's not a surprise to see the car getting stronger as the run goes along. They didn't necessarily set it up that way. That's just the way the car has been from day one, Mike was saying. So really happy with the car, all things considered. Just trying to find a way past. That's really been the struggle. Not a lot of obvious passing zones around this track, so Dane having to pick and choose his spots.
Yeah, I think this is going to be all about getting creative in terms of making passes here.
It is. No one's figured out that puzzle so far today. It's a tight racetrack. It's tough to make a move. Here's a nice little battle that's developing between Carl Marcelli aboard the number 80 Racers Edge Acura, starting to put the pressure on Van der Zande for the 4th position.
And Renger, absolutely a world-class gun, but I don't know how much time he's got in a GT3 Ferrari. So
Sully's drive-through penalty for the 38, but Marcelli is showing great pace here late in the going. He's a little bit quicker than the Pro-Am leaders right now.
He has been fast all season. A couple of overall poles for Marcelli. He certainly has pace.
Well, this is why for Mark Miller, if he can bring it home here today to show this result sheet, would be superb to see guys like Campbell, Cameron, Van der Zande, and Marcelli, Colin Brown, Balzan behind you. That is a huge statement for this man behind the wheel of the 5 car.
And you mentioned a good point. We haven't seen much of it, but the 64, that is the Scuderia course of Ferrari, the number 64, started by Brett Curtis, but Alessandro Balzan, who of course a multi-time champion in sports car endurance racing and had to take a fairly long break, almost a year and a half, I think it was, due to a medical issue. And ran a couple of races in the Italian GT Championship after he was cleared to drive over the last couple of weeks. This is his first appearance back behind the wheel of that Scuderia Corsa Ferrari.
And he's quick.
On North America, you bet he is.
He is really quick. He's run a fastest lap, about 8/10 quicker than Van der Zande or the sister car, so that is superb to see. Alessandro Balzan back behind the wheel.
Marcelli hunting, working over Van der Zande as we go back up front where Parent. Oh, and here we go.
Miller's in trouble.
Yep, something's happened here.
Miller is dropped. Campbell's out front. Cameron goes by him as well. Must be a technical issue, I would assume, on that Gradient Racing Acura.
Unless he was...
He just got wide and got in the marbles, but seemed to not really try and fight off Cameron there.
Yeah. I wonder if it started with a creative pass by Campbell. Brent, by the way, that margin over Long, even though Long was uncorking some laps, has now opened up to about 7 seconds. Miller's last lap was his fastest of the race, but then it was so on this lap is where it went wrong.
'91 car has the lead. Now we'll see in clean air. What can Campbell do? Does he have more pace than the Acura behind him? Miller's kind of regrouped here. He's not just dropped like a stone, so was it a mistake? Did he just go out wide, get marbles on the tires?
All right, and so we're kind of wondering what may have happened. What are you hearing from pit lane, Ryan?
I checked with Till Bechtelsheimer real quick, and he said there was some contact out there, so they're not too thrilled about that, but it sounds like that's how the Porsche was able to get by. It was a bit of a bump and run, perhaps.
All right, thanks very much.
If you're running to the bathroom, you can do
We
that.
were wondering, is that creative passing scenario, and you do it in a spot where it's a big surprise. You can have those moments here. So, and you know, right now, we are somewhat loath to do the points as they run scenario, but with Cameron in second in Pro-Am and Marcelli back in fifth,
It's a big swing.
I would give them the team lead for sure.
Yeah, that is a big swing here today. So Marcelli's going to try and dig deep here and see if he can get around Van der Zande first, then chase after Miller.
There's still time, isn't there? 27 minutes, essentially.
Ton of time left on the clock. And I think it just showcases how tough it is to make a move around here, if indeed that is the case where Campbell had to bump and run to the lead. It's just tough to make a clean pass with such a competitive field. The balance of performance between the various manufacturers is very close here on this circuit. Unless someone makes a big error, it's tough to make a clean pass.
Here's Alvaro Parent. Margin up to 7.2 seconds right now. Really just controlling this one beautifully. And tell you what, Ryan, this pairing, this car has been pretty stout this weekend so far.
It has a couple of poles for Andy and Alvaro. Andy, you started this race in the Bentley, and it was an interesting start, so let's begin there. Drop back to third. Can you take us through how the first couple of corners played out?
It was maybe interesting for you guys to watch, not for me though. No, I had a good pull away, but Scott just got on the power at the same time, and I knew he's very aggressive and he was going to try around the outside. The Porsche, when the tires are not up to temperature yet, they have a bit more grip than us and a bit better braking efficiency, so I knew he was going to try and outbrake me on the first corner, but I just kept the inside. I saw he run wide and he went completely off track. The problem is that I knew he was going to try and just come back as if I wasn't there, so I gave him the space, and Tony used that opportunity to make a move there, which I didn't expect, to be honest, but I just wanted to play it safe. And then, yeah, I had a better pace than Tony. I could make a nice move after turn 2, and from then on, Scott had to give me the position back, which I expected already, and I pulled a good gap, so hopefully we can finish where Alvaro is now, and win the race.
And once you got to the lead, it looked like the car was handling beautifully. It seemed like you were really confident. Was that the case?
Yeah, it was absolutely the case. I was enjoying myself every lap. I found a few tricks here and there, and I could lap quite fast. I could see I was consistent on the lap times. I was pulling 10th by 10th to Hargrove, and every time we got to a lapped car, I just tried to lose the less time possible in order to give Alvaro the car in the best position possible. So I enjoyed myself, and hopefully Alvaro is doing the same, and we can just win the race and finish on a high.
Thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, and I think the interesting thing in that, obviously just a strong run, but his thing about learning a few tricks, this is the interesting thing about coming to a track that is absolutely clean sheet for everybody, is as the race unfolds, you keep picking up little tricks.
You do. You're just always learning and trying to figure out a way to make a clean pass. And here the Marcelli is got by Van der Zande, so this is the number 7. Ferrari has dropped back quite a ways here. Let's see if there was any argy-bargy involved in this encounter as well.
Let's take a look back here.
Oh, there was, big time. I thought that was a big gap, so
yep.
It's just tough to make a pass here that's not
interesting for you guys to watch,
clean.
Not for me, though. No, I had a
So
good
Marcelli
way, but, Scott
sneaks
just,
through. Now Van der Zande has to gather up. Has lost, as you said, a ton of time.
Yeah, and see what the stewards think about that one as well. So if they got a good clean look at it, they may make a call on Kyle. Not saying that he's at blanks. We haven't seen it cleanly either, but just hard racing. You know, Ringer's not going to give it up. So now Marcelli try to chase down. And we're talking about that team championship. Every position is critical. So Marcelli now try to chase down Miller. There's a Porsche up front. There's Acura is running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in this Pro-Am class. And Campbell, once he got to the front of the lead in Pro-Am, laid down a 133.1, which stacks up nicely against Perent's 132.9, and Molina with the fastest lap at 132.8.
Absolutely. Cameron just turned a 133.3. That's personal best of the race for that car, and that margin, Campbell to Cameron right now, is 2 seconds. Another 1.5 seconds back to Miller. Here is the margin from Long, 2nd overall, back to Molina. The Porsche over the Ferrari.
Molina really tight there around the wall. That's the line that he prefers. He is chasing after Pat Long. Cutting into that gap. Last time it was about 4/10, the delta between the Porsche and the Ferrari that runs 3rd.
Yeah, he's making up some ground for sure. Molina has. Perent continues to just tick away those margins a little bit. 10th or so a lap, and that margin now built up to 7.6. Long, then Molina, and a big margin back to Soule right now. But Molina's closing.
He really is. He is really quick. Got drafted into the World Endurance Championship. He's a Ferrari factory pilot, so had to skip a couple of rounds where Daniel Serra filled in superbly alongside Tony Vilander. So Miguel's only had 3 wins on the year compared to Tony's 6, but you just know he's going to dig deep and try and get as many points as he can here. Again, it's all about that Manufacturers' Championship. Right now, it'd be a 10-point swing for Bentley, who came into this race 17 points behind the Ferrari in the Manufacturers' standings. So if Molina can get this position on the Porsche, that would gain them 3 valuable points there.
Long down into turn 1. Using the face of those curbs, as you talked about.
Yeah, I think what Pat was doing there, I would say, was about as perfect as you could do in terms of how much curbage to use.
And for the first time in a while, that margin for Long Molina is under a second, though. As Molina ran a 30, Long ran a 33.6, Molina a 33.1, Cal.
Yeah, he's got 4 5/10 advantage over the Porsche right now, but suddenly you get this close, you're going to get a little bit of that aero wash where the effect of the car coming up over the car in front of you takes away the air to your front aero, and you don't quite have the downforce and the ability to turn the car as effectively as you did when you're running in clean air.
And you would certainly think, coming out of all of the tight corners on this track, that Porsche would get the plant a little bit better coming out, but there's also sections of this track that are pretty flow and momentum related, and that seems to be where that Ferrari is just stout.
Yeah, and you can see Miguel, he's really hugging inside some of those curbs. Just trying to hook that Ferrari and maintain the grip. It's amazing how some of these top-level GT drivers can come to a new circuit and immediately figure out their way around. Up front, though, Alvaro Pirelli. Flawless drive so far today.
And the margin this time by for him, yep, right about that 7.5 margin. He is just pacing things beautifully.
But suddenly look at Long and Molina, match and lap times. Before, Molina had that 3/4 advantage. Now it's kind of stymied.
Yes. Yeah, we were wondering, was Patrick dealing with anything? Report from Ryan down the pit lane. Nope. Just in a heck of a race right now.
We're hearing from the stewards that they will look at the contact between the 80 and 70 from the onboard cameras following the race. So to be determined if there was any avoidable contact by Carl Marcelli in getting up to 4th position and Aran van der Zande down into turn 3.
There's the run out of 7 again. Looks like Long's been able to stabilize things a little bit here.
And I think some of that is just the Ferrari just suddenly gets into that no man's land with the aero wash. The other problem with that is that can actually hurt you in terms of tire degradation as well.
Well, here's Miller, still 3rd in the category, but Marcelli is making up some ground at this stage, running a little bit quicker, about half a second quicker on the last lap than Miller was.
Campbell and Cameron, as you can see, have taken off a little bit, front 2 in the Pro-Am class, but Campbell is stretching the gap on Cameron, so looks like it could be Porsche's day in Pro-Am today. Race 2 later today, it'll be a reverse of the starting drivers, so the higher graded driver will be starting the race, so these finishing drivers will be seeing the green flag tonight at 7:30 local. Should be spectacular here under the lights at Las Vegas.
In that one, Pirelli will start on pole, but Molina will start 2nd as opposed to back where he was. Long will be in the 3rd spot, so and Dane Cameron will be on pole for the Pro-Am, so.
One thing everyone would have seen was Scott Hargrove's move around the outside, even though he had to abuse the track limits to get it done. So the start is going to be so crucial here, as we can see, a really tough racetrack to pass on.
And Miller has been able to stabilize things just a little bit here and is keeping Marcelli at bay.
Great drive from Mark, really is. I mean, that's some tough competition he's out there with and has performed superbly. I know he'll be disappointed if he did get the bump and run to lose those positions. Gradient Racing, Till Bechtelsheimer did a superb job to start this race, qualify at the sharp end. Been a big day for that team.
Not really sure what the problem was with the 64 Ferrari, the Scuderia Corsa Ferrari. As you talked about, Alessandro Balzan is running laps as quicker than most of the people around him at this stage, but they just somehow lost a lap somewhere in the mix. I don't know if they had a really bad stop or an extra pit stop, but if he was up in the mix, this would be interesting as well. Look at that margin for Pirelli. Just a brilliant drive. He and Suchek both.
There's Molina. And suddenly that almost like a little air pocket, a little buffer between the two cars when they get this close. That's basically what it is in some ways, in terms of the air not getting to the front end of that Ferrari. Long is so much experience, such a savvy racer, hard racer too. If it will get down to the nitty-gritty, he will dig deep to maintain that track position, but he'll know he's got that Ferrari in its wake, and maybe not much Miguel can
Incident
do.
between car 80 and car 7 in turn 3 will be reviewed at the end of the race. Incident between car 5 and 9-1 in turn 6 will be reviewed at the end of the race.
The here is superb, just balancing the car, just squeezing. It's not an on-off switch, you just got to really throttle control through that section has got to be spot on, otherwise you're going to exceed the grip of the tires.
You heard the announcement from race control, those two potential contact moments. They've opted to review them at the end of the race instead of making a decision mid-race. Mr. Long right there. Surprise to you, Cal, when you take a look at the season that there's only one win for that Wright Motorsports Porsche?
Yeah, I think they struggled a bit mid-season with tires and stuff, to be honest with you. So I think that took the edge off their performance. But you give them a sniff, as we saw at Sonoma, and he and Hargrove scored a brilliant victory that day. But you know, it just showcases the level of the talent and the teams and the competition in the championship right now, where a combination like that can only have one victory.
Exactly.
Because it is so tough to win this year.
Well, Marcelli has amped it up once again here and has hustled that MBRP Performance Exhaust Acura right under the tail of Miller in the unit nutrition machine. A couple of different approaches to exiting the north apron. Ooh, Miller a bit wide there. That just makes you tighten that exit up through turn 2. Into our final 14 minutes of round 13. Things have stabilized a little bit around here in general, but with that race, the season finale coming up tonight, how much do you think in the heads of the drivers is, don't do anything overly egregious here, we need to be able to turn around a car, not in 3 weeks' time, but in 6 hours' time?
Yeah, and some of these titles are still nip and tuck. I mean, certainly the driver's title for Tony Villander has been settled, but the manufacturers' battles are tight. Certainly this Pro-Am championship is incredibly tight still between manufacturers, teams, and certainly looks like Marcelli and Baki could almost clinch here today, I think, with Cameron effectively going to be dropped out of the overall score at the end of the day, because he's not tied at the hip with the same AM driver. So even if he scores more points than Marcelli, he'll not be awarded the championship due to the regulations.
Might well end up as the top scoring pro driver, but as you said, if you're listed in the points alone in Pro-Am as a pro, you're effectively just swept out, as it is a Pro-Am championship. But can't take anything away from the just stunning season that Dane's put together. 3 different co-drivers as the years unfolded, and they have just executed.
Marcelli just trying to figure out this puzzle. How can you set him up?
Boy, this is as close as he's been here, Cal.
He is, but the number 5 car just super strong through this section here, and just seems to stretch on anyone he's around. That just gives him a little bit of breathing room by the time they get to the brake zone.
What I'm wondering there is, as close as he was, and he had turned in, when they both sort of turned in and apexed, if you will, that south apron, looked like Kyle had an opportunity for a draft that he floated way up in the banking and Miller kept him down. And to me, that would have just negated that draft.
Yeah, I think the problem is, I mean, that is a real corner, Greg. I mean, I know it's wide open on fresh tires, but if you suddenly got a little bit of tire deg and you got that aero wash, you can't keep it tucked in without sort of like having to crank in the steering input, and that's going to loosen the car up. So you got to let it have its head a little bit. For Kyle, that just puts him in a position where he's not able to attack down into the brakes.
Crucial battle here for 3rd in the Pro-Am category. That has big points implications in the Pro-Am Team Championships, led right now by the 91 of Matt Campbell, the Pro-Am category. And up front overall, it is Parent in the Bentley leading over Long and Molina. Battle for 2nd overall. Long continues to hang on to it, but Molina, he's gotten about that close, Cal, and hasn't been able to do anything with it, but absolutely has not dropped off at this stage. And every time Long looks in the mirrors, he sees flashes of red.
He does, but he recognizes so tough to pass it. Just keep hitting his marks. Don't try and ask for more from that race car than is given you right now. They could maybe tweak on it tonight, make it faster for tomorrow, but right now he knows the threshold of the car and what the tires will give him. Don't ask for any more. Don't make any mistakes. It'll be tough for the Ferrari to get by.
Riding on board with Miguel. Flicking it down through turns 1 and 2.
As a chasing driver, you're just trying to manipulate every corner and try and come after and say, am I a little bit closer? How can I piece together this magic lap? And then suddenly you'll get that aero wash and it's like, oh, you're so frustrated by it.
When you get into that wash, what it does is it takes the air off of the nose, right? So the car pushes a little bit, and that starts scrubbing the tires on the front. They build up heat, they lose efficacy, and you have to bail just a little bit. We're into our final 10 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, the radius you're trying to run, you suddenly find your hands are having to turn a little bit more. That's creating a little bit more scrub. The car's not as efficient. It's costing you lap time.
That's why when you have backed off a little bit, brought those tires back in, and you make a charge, you would better be decisive and get through in a hurry, or you're just going to do the rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and what you can do sometimes is just try and read the traffic, gauge the traffic. If there's traffic up ahead, when am I going to get to that? Okay, say there's 3 laps. If that's your guesstimate, cool the tires off a little bit, try and get as close as you can, and then be in a position to pounce. But it's a tough chess match to play.
Well, it's amazing to me how far Molina puts those right side tires to the inside of that apex curb in turn 9. He's 3-4 feet over.
Yeah, that's his line, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of found that as the effective way around the racetrack. Marcelli still close, but not close enough. A little bit of lap traffic just ahead of this duo, so see how that affects things.
It'll be Alex Barron, I think, that they're coming up on.
With a ton of experience.
Sports cars, Indy cars, Atlantic cars. And for Miller, oh, Marcelli coming from way back. It wasn't going to throw it in there, but I think he was hoping he could just get Miller to miss his braking point by that much.
Yeah, just too far back to really make a legitimate pass there, but certainly trying to rattle him a little bit. Trying to make him lose focus right now. All Miller's thinking about where will I clear this Porsche up in front. Cannot afford to let that cost me any momentum and allow Marcelli the chance to pounce.
All right, now it's all about, at this stage, Miller trying to clear Barron here. Barron opens the door up wide, and he stays up high. Class move by a guy with a lot of experience, as you pointed about. Really didn't affect either of those two drivers at all.
That's pretty easy path there through for Mark Miller. But Marcelli is going to try and keep the heat on. He recognizes that this position could be crucial by tomorrow night when we award the trophies at the gala here at the Bellagio.
And again, Marcelli being very free with that car as he exits that south apron. Miller keeping it a little bit more tucked. Look at the marbles that are building up off line just a little bit there at the exit of 3 as you head into 4.
Yeah, and that's what even if you're close and you start getting alongside someone, it's becoming a narrower line in terms of the clean part of the racetrack, so that doesn't help things in terms of a pass.
Up front, Long now within 6 seconds at 5.9 seconds off of Brent, but you've got to be pretty confident that that's Brent just managing things a little bit, but Molina stays right there. 0.6 of a second officially at the line. Looking here at Colin Brown in the 04 CrowdStrike Mercedes AMG GT3, running 6th in the Pro-Am class right now.
That's when you talk about the level of competition, the fact that Colin Brown, recognized one of the fastest young drivers in the sports car arena, is running in 6 in class.
Yes.
So that really showcases just the depth of speed that we have in the series this year.
Yeah, it's a deep, deep field in terms of the talent. You're absolutely right. This is the car started by George Kurtz. And, just notice that Renger van de Zande, who would be the car up front of Colin here, just turned best lap of the race for his stint at a 33.8. Oh, Marcelli's so close once again. Right up in here, there's all those marbles.
Yeah, he's closer than he's ever been, though. He may be close enough to have a little bit of a poke down the inside somewhere. Oh, he gets a little bit wide there. Yeah, that's the trouble. You get offline, there's not the grip there, and suddenly you're the one's recovering, and the gap is back to where it was.
he's just probing maybe in a way. You know, was there something there? And he now knows, nope, that's not going to work. I've got to change that angle up a little bit. But I think if he's that close out of 3 again, I mean, he had that huge run down into 8 and got that big toe. If he could figure out how to get that line be just a little closer coming out of 7, who knows? As we go up and check in on our leader, it's the one thing, you know, when you have a massive lead in a race, you don't get a lot of TV time sometimes. This number 9 Capex Bentley has just been dominant, is the word for it.
Big swing in the points here. 17
Yes.
points in the manufacturer's title coming in. The gap between Ferrari, who leads, and Bentley. And if the positions stay the same up front, it'll be a 10-point swing. I mean, it'll be 7 points going into the race tonight. And if they were able to cut and paste the same result, well, that would swing up Bentley's way. We got Molina starting on the front row tonight.
And Pat Long right now in that Porsche between Parent and Molina. Team car to this one here is everybody in Bentley's pulling for Long right now in that battle, you know that. And Campbell, as he is pretty comfortable with doing, has just been spectacular in leading now in that Pro-Am category, running 5th overall.
There's the Wright Motorsports Brain Trust, very smart group there, led by John Wright. Always put out a first-class effort with Scott Hargrove and Patrick Long, 2 superb drivers to boot. So here's the sister car, the Matt Campbell car, leading Pro-Am. You see that flash of orange there. Cameron's not letting him get away. And they've run lap times within 1/100th of a second of one another, Campbell and Cameron, so pretty evenly matched. But
Campbell, that last lap was the fastest lap of the race for the car. So
hats off Pirelli,
yeah,
to be able to deliver tires that can perform this late into the stint.
3 minutes to go. Here's a look at our AM category leader here. Continues to be led by the 96 Turner Motorsports BMW, the H&R Springs machines, Shirazaka-san. Hanging on in that category, obviously the lone entry in that category, but have really been doing a great job. And it's great to have them in the paddock. The team, you know, long associated for many years with World Challenge competition here. And these 2 drivers have just been just a great addition.
They really have. They're fun. They enjoy their racing. Have a lot of experience racing over in Asia together. And you go in that transporter and they're always smiling and having a good time. But they're serious once they get on the racetrack. This isn't just fun for them.
No.
They are all about winning.
And this battle is still thoroughly on. Here's Marcelli. I mean, he really needs to find a way by Miller just in looking at that team championship scenario here to try and keep it as close as possible going into tonight's finale, Cal.
Yeah, there's a 2-point margin coming in, but this will give it a 6-point swing for Cameron in the real-time effort over Racer's Edge. So it'll give them a 4-point advantage going into the final race of the championship.
Under 2 minutes, and with the laps they're running, we would expect to see the white flag next time by for Alvaro Parent. That number 9 Capex Bentley Continental GT3R. It's a beautiful car, and it does sound sweet.
It really does, and I'm not sure we're going to see Alvaro in our championship next year. I know he's got a lot of stuff going on with contracts and stuff, but you know one thing, Jim Huey and the whole Capex organization have loved running Alvaro. To be determined what his programs will be for next year, but wherever he ends up, they're going to end up with one heck of a driver.
Boy, aren't they? Here we go. Coming up, crossing the line, white flag flies. Oh!
Problems. This is huge.
58 long. Unbelievable.
The manufacturer's title moves Molina up to 2nd. Takes away some of that buffer that the Bentley team had established.
Yeah.
Heartbreak here.
Just trying to limp it in. Unbelievable. So Molina into 2nd.
Perfect day for Bentley is still pretty perfect up front, but the gap to the Ferrari is now only going to be a 7-point swing versus 10. Darren Law and the whole Capex team cannot believe what they're looking at.
Absolutely.
Promotes Soule in the 2nd Bentley up to a podium position, the number 3 car that he shares with Baptista.
Last run down the infield straight. And don't be surprised here, folks, when these guys pick up the checkered flag. They've been instructed to not turn into the chicane. As they get to the checker, they can just free run it and run a little bit of the banking here on their cool down lap. Alvaro Parent closing in on that here. Last time through that tricky 11 and 12 complex, onto the south apron, feeding it throttle, the Bentley. Loving every minute of it. Parent loving every minute of it. K-Pax loving it. And at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Bentley and K-Pax Racing in the hands of Parent and Soucek grab the win. But last lap fortune allowing Molina and Vilander in the R-Ferry Ferrari to slot into second place and sort of stem the flow in terms of those team championship points. And here comes Soule through along with Baptista in the number 3 Bentley, taking that 3rd spot. If he hangs on here in the 4th spot, should be Matt Campbell, 4th overall, winning in Pro-Am. And here he comes along with Anthony Imperato in the Wright Motorsports Porsche. But also keeping an eye here on what's unfolding with Miller and Marcelli in their scrap. Here comes Campbell. What a talent he is.
Yeah, once he wrestled the lead away from Miller, just took off. Cameron kept him honest, but nothing he could do.
Great run by Campbell and Anthony Imperato winning with Porsche in Pro-Am. Here we go. Cameron 2nd in the class, and as hard as Marcelli tried, Cal, he just could not figure out a way to slice through and take that spot away. So Miller, after basically having a mirror full of car for the entire race, responding to some great pressure beautifully, bringing it home 3rd in Pro-Am and keeping Marcelli back into 4th.
Yeah, just a great run for Mark Miller here today with that podium position. Of course, a couple of pieces of video will be reviewed after the race. How did Campbell get around Miller for the lead? How did Marcelli get around Van der Zande for position? So have to see if the official results will be affected by those reviews.
And Martin, Fuentes, and Van der Zande 5th in the Pro-Am class in the Squadra Corsa Hublot Ferrari. But Till Bechtelsheimer and Miller, Till putting it on pole for this race, and Miller putting together a great drive as well. Colin Brown and George Kurtz 6th in the Pro-Am category. Balzan and Curtis 7th. And Barron and Milstein 8th in Pro-Am. And Shirazaka and Takeda bringing home the win in AM.
It was remarkable, Greg. Looking at the best laps of this race, the top 6-7 cars were within 1/10 of a second of one another. 32.8s to 32.9s.
That's just insane, isn't it? I love it, but it's insane how close it is. So for the first time since 2000, the year 2000, World Challenge has completed a big race here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And Bentley claims the win. For K-Pax Racing, Soucek, and out of the car now comes Alvaro Parent. Boy, both those drivers just put on great drives. Let's not forget, obviously, that crew gave them a very special car to be able to sweep the poles and put on a display like that.
They really did. They were on their marks all weekend long. 2 poles, first win of the weekend. Another big race here tonight. That championship is going to be really tight for the teams and manufacturers, but that problem for Pat Long has really thrown a spanner in the works for the Bentley and K-Pax teams to cut into the margin enough to be effective tonight.
Busy area, celebration area down there. The helmet is off, and that means it's time for us to get down to Ryan.
Well, victorious today, Alvaro Parent. Congratulations. Looked like this car was hooked up. How fun was it to drive around this track today?
It's a special track. I mean, the first time we're here, and it's a little bit different than usual, but felt great. You know, we did the perfect job so far. one more race to go, and really happy with what's going on.
And like you said, so far, because you don't have a lot of time to savor this win, you got to turn around and do it again this evening. It's a unique mindset. How do you prepare yourself for that challenge?
Yeah, and even that's different, but I think we've got the plan well sorted. So a little bit of a rest.
You don't have Hargrove on the side, so you'll be fine. You know.
There they are, your winners in race 1, Andy Soucek and Alvaro Parent.
Yeah, and they put on a good one, no question about that. There's Mr. Vilander on the right, champion-elect, and alongside his co-driver returned, Miguel Molina.
Yeah, and only a 7-point swing instead of 10, so that should cut the manufacturer's gap from Ferrari to Bentley down to 10 points, and it should cut the team point advantage for Ferrari down to 7. Remember, there's a 7-point difference. It could come down to a tiebreaker.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hugely close. Let's get back down to Ryan.
Pro-Am winners here in race 1, Matt Campbell, Anthony Apparato. How was the race from where you were sitting? It looked like you were in the middle of some pretty good battling all throughout that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. You know, the 5 car was putting some pressure there. We'd get a gap, he'd catch us back, but kind of messed up the pit stop a bit. But, you know, Matty drove hard and got by the 5, and, you know, we got the win. So great job by him and the team.
Got to go do it again here this evening. How confident are you in the car and the crew that you can get it done again?
Yeah, I think a lot more confident after qualifying. I mean, you know, we were fast in practice. We didn't quite hit the marks in qualifying, but we turned the car back around. And, you know, tonight I think we'll play into Porsche's favour. It's nice and cool. Track will be fast. And, yeah, looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Congratulations on the win.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ryan. And, yeah, that's a great point about the fast turnaround and vastly different conditions. They had a night practice, and guess who was fastest in there? Matt Campbell, Porsche. So, yeah, they might be licking their chops just a little bit as we take a look at the results here. And, again, if it's a white background on the number, that's a pro category car. If it's a white number on black, it is an AM car. And the interesting one is the one sort of smack in the middle there, the number 6, the Wright Motorsports number 58. Looked like it had a second locked up on this one, and problems on those last few laps.
Yeah, and it's really changed the complexion of these championships going into the final round here tonight. It should be fascinating with all of the fast guys starting tonight. A little bit different complexion to what we saw today, possibly.
Absolutely, and we saw them standing there. Let's see if we can hear from them. Ryan, have you been able to find Mr. Vilander and Molina?
Well, I found Miguel at the very least, and he was the beneficiary there on the final lap. All of a sudden, you found yourself in second. How did you find out that you had moved up a spot?
Well, I saw the Porsche that in the braking in turn 3, he got something coming out of the tire, and suddenly I thought they had a puncture. So I only had to stay awake and try to avoid all the parts and everything. And at the end, it's a shame because they were doing a good job, and we had a bit better pace than them. But at the end, it's really difficult to overtake here in this track, and especially after the last race, we had more weight in the car, and in acceleration we lose a bit. But at the end, P2 is good points for sure. We would like to win, but it's not always possible. So really happy about to be back here and to score one more podium.
Well, you mentioned when you got out of the car, it was warm out there. How excited are you that race 2 is going to be at night where it's a bit cooler?
Yeah, it will be a nice challenge because also the infield is not quite bright. So well, let's see what's going on in the late afternoon. So, but it will be a good race for everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and as they said, I mean, this lighting system at this track is pretty spectacular on the oval part of it and the aprons and the like. But you make that turn into the infield, and it's artificial temporary lighting that is in there, and they've said it's a big adjustment. And it's probably if you were just running the infield, you'd adjust and you'd be fine, but you come from the very bright oval part of the track down to a darker infield, and it changes the dynamic a bit.
It does, and talking to some of the drivers, the way the light hits you is kind of right in your face rather than kind of looking at the tail of the car, which is ideal. So they had a night practice chance to try and accommodate that, but even so, it should be spectacular to see these cars running full bore and racing as opposed to just driving laps like the other night.
So there's a look right there at There's Rodrigo Baptista just turning around and looking back at the camera, and they ended up with that issue for the 58 with a third place. So both of the Bentleys up on the podium, and problems late in the race here for the number 96 Turner car. That is the AM winner that is coming in, and a tough way to bring it home. You almost wonder if maybe it was a fuel thing right at the end of the race, although you wouldn't think they would be off on that. Just pure speculation, obviously. Campbell with that win. Cameron and Hedlund in the second place. And Marcelli in the Pro-Am category. Marcelli and Barkey back in the fourth spot. So that team championship for those guys has swung the other direction a bit, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. So the advantage is with the real-time guys, and it would actually put Dane Cameron ahead of both of that drivers of the number 80. But again, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Cameron will be demoted further down the order and effectively invisible in the points because he's not been driving with the same AM partner all season long. So that's been in the regulations all year.
And there's a gentleman the camera caught just as we came to this car who's a bit of a legend in North American World Challenge competition. It was Peter Cunningham, team principal of Real Time Racing. And they talk about the 100 wins that they got, getting that 100th win at home at Road America, doing it with the overall.
He got a lot of those.
40% of those, maybe at least. I mean, basically, you look down through the record book of achievements, wins, poles, podiums, top fives, all of it, topping it all is Peter Cunningham. And interestingly, this is the 30th year, uninterrupted, consecutive year of competition for World Challenge in North America. Petey Cunningham, I think, might be the only driver or only person here that was in that very first race at Sonoma back in 1990. And so, I mean, he Real Time are just deeply connected to this championship. And let's pop back down to Ryan Marino, I believe, has found Dane Cameron.
I have. And we found out before the weekend started that a championship for you as a driver, because you're a pro and you had multiple AM co-drivers throughout the season, was not something that you could go for, but the team's still tasting the team championship. There's the manufacturer's championship to think about, and that was a really good result with that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't been any worse than second, I don't think, since Mike has come on board the program. But yeah, pretty disappointing, really, to be honest. I kind of get on one hand why the rule is there, on the other hand, it's a bit, unfair if those guys have business commitments. Or obviously, we had an injury that forced that change, and now it kind of kills a cool opportunity for me to be able to win two drivers' championships in the same year. And those opportunities don't come around that often to be able to win a championship. So yeah, it's a little disappointed, but the rule is what the rule is. So and yeah, like you said, we can still go for manufacturers and go for teams for Real Time. So yeah, that's a good swing, I think, in that direction. And just yeah, again, really thankful for everybody at Real Time, HPD, and Acura for making it possible. We've had a really great year, and it's pretty cool to be in a place where you kind of feel like you should be winning every single race. And when you finish second, you're a bit annoyed. So it's going well when you're disappointed to be second.
One more to go tonight. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's a good thing. You've had a pretty good season when a second place upsets you a little bit. That does make a good point, doesn't it?
No, they've had a great summer, that's for sure.
And look at that. There it is. There's the glitz of Las Vegas in the Strip, and it's not too far away from here. And tomorrow night at the Bellagio will be the award ceremony for the entirety of the SRO umbrella of championships for Blancpain World Challenge and Blancpain GT. And but we've got more racing that's certainly going to be unfolding here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. But let's go back and take a look at some of the highlights from this race as the trophies are about to be presented here. But it all started, obviously, with the opening laps, and things got crazy in the beginning, and there was Hedlund just being absolutely swamped, Cal.
Yeah, you saw Brett Curtis make a big move to the outside in the Scuderia course, and then this is a move late in the going, actually early in the race, with Andy Suchek getting around Scott Hargrove, who had made that very bold attempt on the initial start. He had to give that up. And then you see Fuentes there a little bit wide. That allows Hedlund and Barkey through for position.
And this battle was pretty fierce between these two guys while they were still out there. And you can see Barkey running a little wide. Hedlund cut underneath. Barkey covered it. And watch, Hedlund gets the curb here, unsettles the car.
It does, and this was a big moment there. Matt Campbell tried to wrestle the lead in Pro-Am away from Mark Miller, up and over the curb. Then there was a moment here where Marcelli and Van der Zande get together, and late in the going, disappointment for Pat Long.
Absolutely. From second place, issues unfolding. But from pole to checkers, the number 9 Bentley from K-Pax, Parent bringing it home from Suchek's pole, and exactly what they needed to do to make up some ground in some key points. That doesn't mean we're done racing in the Blancpain GT World Challenge America. We will be back later this afternoon, and we will have the season finale under the lights here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll see you then.